Today I'd like to respond to a commentator who said, why wasn't drones under technology? And when we look at the networks that are being broken because of deglobalization. Originally, we started with four: food, energy, technology, and underwater critical infrastructure, UCI. Then we added in rare earth minerals, REM, and then drones. So that's six. And I understand why you would think, well, drones is technology and all this other stuff, but I we're here trying to figure out how to invest. What would be the best investment philosophy or narrative to follow given deglobalization? So to me, I look at drones as a separate issue in the sense of what can we produce and can we invest in this? Is this going to be the next rare earth minerals? So first, let's discuss these networks because we believe that they're going to have certain characteristics, all of them, a commonality. And the first one will be is that the U.S. government will be involved with financing of these broken networks, okay? Second, Second is when these networks break, that it is going to take whatever, 3, 5, 7 years for us to fix to the point where we feel comfortable. And third, that these can be, and in many cases are, low profit margin businesses. So thereby, these three characteristics must be taken into account if we are going to propose a solution. So first, let's look at MP materials. Now you can stop and read this, but really it's the second paragraph that I want to look at. So they got all this money, and they're getting a loan from the DoD for $160 million, I think, to kick this off. But notice here that they're going to build a 10 times facility, so they need 10 times as much. This is, MP materials is our one and only. We need 10 times as much, all right? Now, here are the 5 points of the agreement. Now, the first thing is that the DoD has a 10-year agreement establishing a price floor of $110 per kilogram. Why is that important? Well, China dominates with 92% of the market, and it's always been a low margin business in the sense of this. You have to invest billions, okay? So already MP Materials is at 1.4 billion, okay? This is one facility. They're going to go 10 times. We probably need 100 times. So this is only the beginning for that. And also, if China flooded the market, it may go down to whatever, $80, $70 a kilogram. We're guaranteeing $110 per kilogram. The second point is, no matter how many magnets that they produce over the next 10 years, the DoD is guaranteeing they're going to buy them all. Third, JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs are to provide $1 billion initial financing costs for the construction and developing of the 10-time facility. There we go, $1 billion right out of the box. And also that the DoD is now going to be an ownership through a newly created preferred stock convertible into common shares. They own around 15% of the company. So you can see, low margin business, critically important to America, billions to invest. Companies can't do that with no profit there. So we give them the money, we guarantee them the buy at a certain price so they can be profitable, okay? This is what we look at for broken networks in the world. So what I would say to you is when we look and say, what's going to happen, can we invest in it? These are the characteristics that we're looking at. Now here's a very interesting article from War on the Rocks. I don't know if you follow the military. This is, I think, a very good site. And interesting enough, this article, which is very good, by the way, is, winning the drone war means that first we have to win the factory war, that we have to have the process down. So before we start going through this, we have to remember something. China today produces 1 billion drones per year. 1 billion drones per year. Okay? So to say that we're behind, we're way behind. They produce 9 out of 10 drones manufactured in the entire war. Okay? Or world, excuse me. So I want you to look at the first sentence of the second paragraph. Chinese civilian manufacturers have the capacity to retool in under a year to turn out 1 billion weaponized drones annually without slowing the rest of the economy. By our calculations, that we require less than 1% of its assembly capacity and less than 5% of its battery output and a fraction of the printed circuit board capacity. Now, the reason we're going over this is we have to build a drone, okay, in our minds, and what are the necessary parts so that we can actually do that. So the first thing is, how do we build the body? Well, they're made out of plastic, injection molding. Well, guess what? America is no slouch. We are maybe, I'm not sure, either the biggest or the second biggest plastic injection molding people in the country. And if our government came out and said, hey, make us 1 billion drones, the bodies, just the bodies now, just the plastic bodies, that would be less than 1% of our plastic injection molding that we do per year. So guess what? We can do that. And I'd also add, I don't think that's an investable area. The next, we need a motor to fly our drones. And here are the companies who make these motors. And they say, basically, that within 12 months, at roughly $30 a motor, and the right investment and demand signal from the U.S. government. So they're saying the government has to invest. When you say demand signal, I would say price floor, just like MP materials. So the batteries are our Achilles heel. Hitting 1 billion drones would require roughly 0.25 terawatts of lithium ion capacity. We are projected to have 0.8 terawatt hours online next year. We don't have it this year. Think about it. That's 1/3. In an effort to produce 1 billion drones would be a significant burden on the entire supply chain, substantially reduce our ability to produce electric cars. But these numbers also indicate that it is possible. While not all announced capacity will be online, long-term offtake contracts and new technological innovations is what our battery cells need. So in other words, we don't have the capacity or the wherewithal to do it today. So look in the first. Next is your printed circuit board so we can control the drone. America has fallen from 30% of global board production to about 4%. But we have two good firms, TTM Technologies and Summit Interconnect, that could be expanded quickly once they see multi-year backlog and probably government investment. For cameras, the type that drones need in the future wars, we need a cheap complementary metal oxide semiconductor modules. Chinese suppliers sell for under $10 a piece in single unit lots. From our car manufacturers, we can actually meet this, but again, it takes a couple years to do it. So now if we do the math, right, we have the industrial muscle. Remember something, we're 14% of the world's manufacturing production. We're only 4% of the population. So you can see here how it adds up though. You know, if you have the drone, you need 30,000 components in a passenger car, roughly 10 million a year, that's 300 billion parts. Building 1 billion drones thereby equates approximately 1% of today's automotive assembly capacity. And again, I encourage you to stop and read this. They say this is possible for us, but it's going to take us 3 to 5 years to get to 5 million drones per year. The Chinese are doing 1 billion now. So, a lot of people to invest in here. Like and follow, and tell me in the comments what you think is a good company to buy.